My name is Sam, and welcome to my podcast, Sounds Like Sam. Today, I'm talking with fellow fantasy football enthusiast and Carolina Panthers fan, Colt Bush, about everything from how he thinks the Panthers did in their 2020 draft, how the Panthers will do in 2020, as well as what his most recent fantasy football championship-winning draft strategy was, and more. So, with that said, let's welcome my host of the day to the show. Hey, Colt, how's it going?
How's it going, Sam? Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Right off the bat, let's just go to the first question. How do you think the Panthers draft went this year, and what draft grade would you give them?
I think the draft this year was excellent. We were the first time ever in NFL's history that they selected every single pick was on the defensive side, which was very much necessary looking at last season. Obviously, Derek Brown and Yetur Gross-Matos, or Matos, however you pronounce it, they're D linemen. They're very successful and probably going to be Panthers for a long time, so we're very excited about that. The other two picks that it looks like our coach, Matt Rule, new coach, really high on is Troy Pride Jr. out of Notre Dame and Jeremy Chin out of Southern Illinois. Looks like Chin's going to be starting for us week one, so that's pretty exciting. So they're going to have a young defense, but one that's going to learn really quickly, and they have a lot of potential, so it's super exciting. As far as draft grade, probably give them a B plus. We hit the D line really well, but at the same time, with Kuechly retiring, and it would have been nice to see them draft a linebacker. But other than that, they did a pretty good job of identifying needs.
Yeah, I'd agree. I really like that Derek Brown pick. I just really liked him out of Auburn. He was a great defensive tackle. I thought he could have even gone a little higher, but it was a great pick for the Panthers overall. And, in terms of their defense too, I know they do still have some young talent other than the rookies they drafted. So that's got to be pretty exciting too. So
Yeah. Shaq Thompson probably step up and be the leader of that team. And then they just signed Eli Apple from New Orleans. So we'll see if he can kind of turn it around, but should be exciting one way or the other.
So moving on to the second question, how do you feel about Matt Rule as the new head coach? Joe Brady is the new offensive coordinator and Teddy Bridgewater as the new quarterback.
Yeah, we're actually, as a fan, really excited about the new coaching staff. Matt Rule comes from, two rebuild projects where he actually crushed. He took Temple from kind of a has-been and then took him into the American Athletic Conference. And, their players last year won 9 games. So then those were all Rule's guys. He did the same exact thing with Baylor. He took over a decimated program after the way that Bryles left that and all the sexual assault allegations, and is basically handed the coverage you can get in college football. And, he really turned it around. In 2017, his defense was ranked 114th, gets his first recruiting class in, goes up to 91st, gets his second recruiting class in, all the way up to 20th in 2019. So, the guy can coach, the guy can recruit, and what he can do with less is very apparent. Temple's not a recruiting powerhouse. There's Baylor, and the amount he gets out of his guys is very impressive. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do with players that actually, are NFL talents and have that caliber. The only knock at him at Baylor was the offense was kind of slow to progress with the defense, but I think he's addressed that when he hired Joe Brady. Obviously there wasn't a hotter coaching name on the offensive side of football than Brady. LSU was setting all types of records. Burrow had a crazy year. It seemed like just about every single one of those guys, if they didn't get drafted last year, are going to get drafted this year. So we're really excited to have Joe Brady. It seems like the Panthers are probably going to have a passing game that really doesn't focus on a couple guys, under Shula or Norv Turner. It really just kind of focused on, Olsen and McCaffrey, and then they'd send, get him deep every other play. And it's very easy. And my whole thing is that if a fan can watch it on TV, the defensive coordinator can definitely see it up in the press box. So it seems like Brady, he understands how both, vertical passing game opens up the short passing game, and how the short passing game will bring up the safeties to open up the vertical lanes and everything like that. And I think also my favorite part of him is, LSU had all these talented receivers, but they also ran the ball really well with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and, with McCaffrey, what he can do. And, everyone has this stigma they can't run through the tackles, but he's ran for 1,000 yards 2 years in a row now, and he's continuing to crush it. And he's only 23, 24, I believe. So he's got a big future ahead of him, and I'm excited for Brady to use him. And then last one, Teddy, I really hope, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater is like everyone's fan favorite. in the football. Everyone's kind of pulling for him after the whole Minnesota debacle. I'm hoping he does really well here in Carolina. It seemed to me like a signing where he'll just kind of be a placeholder until they find a franchise quarterback. They got him on a really good deal. He's only getting paid $60 million over 3 years, so $20 million a year for a starting quarterback on the NFL. That's less than average now. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be up to 30, 35 million. So we got him on a good deal. He has a higher completion percentage than Cam for career. He completes 65%. Cam was only at 59, which should be great for Joe Brady. It's a very precision attack. He takes care of the football, something that Cam was a little lax with. And that's going to be super important because I don't think our offense is going to be as explosive as everyone thinks. I mean, they're still learning. And our O-line has a lot of growing to do as well. They were pretty brutal last year. So, I mean, I'm excited to have a more accurate passer, someone who makes better decision-making, and someone, who's been, I wouldn't say been in more big games, but he seemed to play better in those big games.
Yeah, I agree. I like the acquisition of all of those guys. And yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, I think he is going to be more of just the guy who's going to stall there until they get a better quarterback. I was actually looking up, I think it was just on Instagram or Twitter, but they had them possibly, if they didn't go after Trevor Lawrence, that they could get Justin Fields possibly. And I thought that would be pretty cool. Justin Fields is going to be kind of like a better Teddy Bridgewater. So I thought that could be a good place for him too.
Yeah, I mean, pre-knee injury, Teddy Bridgewater was pretty deadly, just like, watching Justin Fields now for Ohio State. So that would definitely be exciting. I mean, either one of those guys, either him or Lawrence, are going to be really good. So.
All right, on to the third question. Kind of playing off what I just said on the Justin Fields thing, do you see them tanking for Trevor Lawrence next season?
I'm sure none of them in the organization would say it's tanking, but I think it's pretty clear that they're very young and inexperienced, and there's a lot of room for growth on both sides of the football. So might not be, tanking in quotes. It's definitely not the best team we could have put out there. And like I said, Bridgewater's salaries is very reasonable for a starting quarterback. So, it's nothing to be scared of. They're also not paying him to be the long-term, franchise face that, a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields could be. So, I mean, but just looking at him, Trevor Lawrence, he makes so many great plays. He makes so many throws that it just seems like there's people in the NFL that can't make. And same with Fields. I mean, they both have a big arm. They both make great decisions, and they win. That's, I think, one of the most important parts of a quarterback. And watching the game where they played against each other in the playoffs and semifinals, Lawrence wasn't having the greatest game, but ran the ball a couple more times than the coaches probably would have liked. But he led them to victory. And then, with Fields, he drives them down to the 20. If his receiver runs an out route instead of an in route, they're winning the football game. So
I do remember that play.
Yeah. So, I mean, both those guys are going to be great. And I would think Carolina's probably after one or the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, especially with Teddy Bridgewater he's only on a 2-year deal.
3 years, yeah.
3 years, okay. Well, that would at least leave him to maybe mentor one of them. So
exactly.
A little bit. So on to my fourth question. What are you more excited to watch in 2020, the Panthers offense or defense?
As much as, Joe Brady would bring to the offense, I think I'm more excited to watch our defense grow every week. Seems like it's Rhule's specialty. The defense is going to be super young. So just to see how they're going to adjust week by week by week is going to be really exciting. As I said before, Matt Rhule has done more with less. So now that he has actually some players, it's going to be exciting to see what he can do and what he can kind of cook up with as far as scheme-wise, because, I mean, the NFC South this year is just, it's going to be brutal. To see what he can do against Brady and Breeze and Atlanta's quarterback, Matt Ryan. It's going to be probably the toughest division in football this year. So it's going to be tough, but it's going to be fun to watch them grow and kind of see how they learn and go along. I don't think this year is going to be the year. Like, it's not going to be an instant turnaround, but I definitely think, 2021, that's the year they're kind of circling where it's like, all right, we're going to have most of our guys have a year in them and should have some space. So
yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think they could have a lot of success in the future with the players and the offense and just head coaches they're building around that team. I think personally, I would probably be on the opposite side because I am looking forward to see what Joe Brady does with the offense. And we already know that they have an elite running back, and I'm excited for DJ Moore to hopefully catch more hopefully over 10 touchdowns, and just the up-and-coming guys. You didn't like the connection with Robbie Anderson and Coach Matt Rule. I really liked that acquisition, so I'm excited to see their offense pan out. But I will say I do want to see like Derek Brown play, and I know they got a couple of LSU guys on the team, so always happy to watch that. All right, well, moving on to my fifth question. What do you think the Panthers' regular season record will be in 2020, and do you see them making the playoffs?
So I think the record's going to be 5-11. I think we'll come out of the gates fast. Probably pick up wins against the Raiders, Chargers, and Cardinals. And then once everyone kind of catches on to what we're doing offensively, I think we're in for a long losing streak. And I'm sure we'll sprinkle in a few more wins just because, the team's talented, not that talented. They do have some players, so we'll probably get a couple more. But I see them going 5-11. Making the playoffs, obviously, that record would be near and there, next to impossible. So hopefully they have a very high draft pick, and then they can get someone like a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Fields to kind of build around and retool the franchise around. I mean, the other big factor here this year is that the Panthers they're the number one team with dead money in the NFL. So they have over $40 million to guys to tell them to not play for us. So this year is kind of like a wash as far as salary cap. And then 2021, they kind of get a fresh look and a lot more cap space to go sign some players.
Nice. That's good. I didn't know that. There's that to look forward to. Maybe get another free agent team builder. And I almost forgot that Luke Kuechly's a scouting person for them too. So he's like an NFL scout for them. So he had talent. So maybe he'll be able to recognize it.
For sure. I feel like he's like the Tim Duncan of the NFL, man. Like he just kind of super quiet. You never know. And then he just retires. And you're like, okay.
All right. So that was really the main football questions I had. Now moving on to some more fantasy football related Panthers football questions. Fantasy wise, how do you see players doing on that team?
Yeah, I got 3 from the Panthers. One's a little unconventional, so I'll start with him first. It's actually our kicker, Joey Sly. It's going to be a lot of field goals this year for the Panthers, and he has yet to miss a field goal this week, so he's going to start the season coming in with a good mindset. He was pretty much money from inside 50, and then over 50, I think he was like 4 for 7 or something like that. Might be the strongest kicker in the league, but if you need a good, solid place kicker that's going to, give you those 3 or 4 extra points to win every week, definitely Joey Sly. Second one would be Ian Thomas. He's our tight end now that Greg Olson's left. Brady, especially at LSU with Moss, loves his tight ends in the red zone. And Ian Thomas has some great hands. Filled in great when Olson went down last year, and he's going to be dangerous. So it's like a good tight end bench option where you can come in when your guy's on the bye week or having a tough matchup. I'm pretty sure he's good for 6 or 7 points a week. And then my last kind of super sleeper is Curtis Samuel, actually, from Ohio State. Hasn't got as many reps as other Panther fans would have liked. It's his 3rd year now in the NFL, but the dude's super quick, has really good hands, and anytime he touches the ball, it seems like good things happen. So, obviously DJ Moore will probably get a lot of balls thrown his way. I think underneath Curtis Samuel is going to be open a lot just because DJ Moore is starting to demand more of that double coverage, and linebackers will be focused on McCaffrey coming out of the backfield. So I think, Samuel's going to be really good, like wide receiver 3 option, flex guy, especially after a couple of weeks once, other teams start keying on some other guys. He's going to be open a lot, and he's quick, so if he catches the ball, he can break it anytime. Those are probably my 3 top picks off the roster.
Nice. Yeah, I like those picks. All right, so now we're on to your fantasy football team. You told me that you had last year, or I think the past 2 years possibly, that you went with an all-white team. What made you decide to go with this route, and do you see yourself going with it for the future? And could you give me a list of the players that were on this team?
Yeah, definitely. I did it because it was a challenge. Because when my first year with the Office League, I won the conventional route. Just taking best player available. Second year, I tried this one out just as a challenge because it's pretty tough once you get into running backs and wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s. So first year I did it, I made the playoffs, lost in the first round, got killed. It was a rough week. And then this last year did it again. I had the first pick of the draft, which definitely helped. So they were able to get Christian McCaffrey, which definitely helps the running back production. And was able to win the league this year because Christian McCaffrey is who he is, and gets 2,000 yards on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just fun and challenging every week, to try and find someone that would fit into that role, and especially for running backs. I mean, it's so limited. So I had Burkhead on the roster for a long time, and it'd be 3 games of 3 rushes, 10 yards, and a catch for another 5, and then you'd have a game where it'd be like 60 yards and a touchdown. So it was very, very hit or miss. Went through a lot of fullbacks as well, like Juszczyk, just trying to hope they get like some red zone touches and get some easy touchdowns that way. Mm-hmm. Kind of more like a Mike Gallstad or John Kuhn from back in the day. But yeah, it's really fun. And then wide receivers too. Adam Thielen, he was great. Cooper Kupp, very consistent. But always just trying to find that kind of third guy. The flex guy was always tough. Some good ones. Cincinnati had one. The Steelers actually had a running back. So Alex Erickson out of Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
He's a good slot guy. Gets you a lot of return yards if your league does that. Good hands though. And then the Steelers had the running back out of North Carolina.
Oh, Switzer. Yeah, Ryan Switzer. I think he's just a wide receiver.
Yeah, so Ryan Switzer too. I mean, he's like a slot guy and a return guy. So I mean, it's just fun trying to find mix and match, and I think that challenge made the season even more fun for me. Just because it wasn't, my guy's on a bye, I'll bench him and just pick up whoever's the top player. Yeah. You actually had to do some research, see who they're playing, everything like that. So it was a lot of fun. Definitely helps me with Christian McCaffrey. I also had Travis Kelce, who had a great year. So that was a lot of fun. But it was just interesting to make it a little tougher on myself and just have a little bit more fun with the office league. And to me, it was kind of like, when you're playing a video game like Madden or NCAA football and you just turn on Heisman and you have to figure it out. So I ended up paying off, won the championship last year. So that was very, very fun, and get to have the bragging rights this year. This year, I'll go back to having a more conventional style, just kind of taking the best available and seeing where they're going. But I mean, this year's going to be tough just because it's going to be such a different environment, and it'll be interesting to see how some of these, big names react to not having people there and having to kind of bring the fire from within, so to speak, instead of having, 60, 70,000 people screaming, pushing them on. So it's going to be, I think this year's fantasy football is going to be one of the toughest ever, just because it's going to be so interesting to see who can come in, week out for 17 weeks and deliver. So
that's true.
I think, the best strategy is just to have depth, and the more solid, you don't have to have all superstars, but if you can have just a good lineup of solid guys every week that gets you, 10, 12 points, you're going to be a tough team to beat.
Mm-hmm. I think my last question regarding your draft was, what did you do for defense? Did you just go based off of logos, or?
Yeah, I did some logos. I mean, it was tough. Animals were good in my book.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Defense was pretty good. I had the Patriots for a while, which actually turned out pretty good last year. They led the league in defensive touchdowns, which is pretty nice to have. Mm-hmm. It's always good when your defense is putting up like 12 points. That definitely helps. And then I had the Panthers for a couple games. That was kind of a mistake. Their defense was terrible towards the end of the year. But yeah, the Bucks D had a couple solid games for me. The Texans D had a couple solid games. So I mean, back in the day, pre-Baker Mayfield, I would just choose whoever the Browns were playing, no matter how bad they were. I'd always look and say, who are the Browns playing this week and who are the Jets playing this week? And I'd choose between them. This year, I might even do that for the Dolphins. Just like, hey, look, who's Miami playing this week? They're a team that I don't think is going to be very good.
Or even Jacksonville,
Yeah, same with that. I might just like, who are the Jags playing this week? Because, I mean, I don't think
their defense
Gardner's the answer either. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of fantasy too. Like, obviously it's competitive and it's with your friends, but at the same time, like, it's a virtual game. It's a video game just like anything else. So to make it anything more interesting, whether, you only pick from certain schools, certain conferences. What I did was just trying to find like a bunch of white dudes, which is always tough. Or if you're trying to be like, all right, I'm just taking Ohio State guys, I think it's just a cool way to make it a game within the game and to make it more exciting and make it tough. And then the cherry on top is like when you win, you have that extra edge too to kind of gloat over everyone else, where it's like, yeah, I beat you, but I did it with this caveat as well. So yeah.
Nice. So Colt, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, anytime you need, love to talk football with you, Sam, and wish you nothing but the best of success in your future and everything you got going for you. So really excited to see where you go.
Hey, thanks, Colt. I appreciate it. Thanks again for listening. If you have any questions or comments about this topic, feel free to contact me on my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram account at Bullseye Fantasy. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my blog. The link is in the Twitter bio, and to rate and share this podcast. Again, those accounts you should follow are at Bullseye Fantasy for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Peace.